It's 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. A coworker rushes over with a last-minute request, needing your help on a project that's due Monday morning. You feel your shoulders tense up, your stomach sinks, but before you can even think, you hear the words spilling out of your mouth. Of course, no problem at all. You tell yourself this makes you a good person, a helpful colleague, a reliable friend. But what if I told you that this impulse to say yes isn't really a choice? What if it's a psychological trap, one that was set for you the moment you were born? For your entire life, you've been conditioned to say yes. You've been rewarded for being compliant and subtly punished when you weren't. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden forces that have trained you to be so agreeable. We'll unpack the deep-seated psychology of people-pleasing that started in your childhood, and more importantly, give you the tools to finally, confidently, and unapologetically say no, without feeling an ounce of guilt. Stay tuned, because this is the video that helps you get your power back. The illusion of agreeableness. Let's get one thing straight right away. There is a huge difference between being a kind, generous person and being a chronic people-pleaser. Kindness is a genuine choice that comes from a place of abundance and care. People-pleasing, on the other hand, is a compulsion. It's an anxious, fear-driven reflex, a desperate attempt to manage what other people think of you. You might believe that your agreeableness is just a cornerstone of your personality, the thing that makes you nice. But for so many of us, it's not a personality trait at all. It's a survival strategy we learned a long, long time ago. People-pleasing isn't a sign that you're just too nice. It's a learned behavior, often rooted in deep-seated anxiety, stress, or even past trauma. The core of this trap is the belief that your worth is directly tied to how useful you are to others. You feel like your value in a friendship, in your family, or at your job is conditional. You have to say yes to earn your spot. This creates a dangerous cycle. You say yes to feel accepted. You get a quick hit of approval, and that fleeting moment of validation reinforces the idea that you have to keep saying yes to stay in everyone's good graces. It's a short-term psychological reward that comes at a massive long-term cost. This behavior is fueled by some of the most powerful forces in human psychology: an intense fear of rejection, a deep need to be liked, and a learned habit of avoiding conflict at all costs. Humans are social creatures. Our ancestors' survival literally depended on being accepted by the tribe. Rejection wasn't just an emotional sting, it was a death sentence. That ancient fear is still wired into our brains, and for a people-pleaser, the thought of saying no can trigger that same primal alarm. It feels like you're risking the entire relationship. But what if that's just an illusion? What if your relationships are actually weaker because of your constant compliance? What if the very thing you do to make people like you is slowly eroding their respect for you, and more importantly, your respect for yourself? This isn't your fault. This reflex was installed, piece by piece, from your earliest years, and to understand how to dismantle it, we first have to go back to the factory where it was built. The factory of compliance, how you were built to say yes. Your training to say yes began pretty much the day you were born. Think about it. As a kid, how were you taught to be good? You were praised for being quiet, for sharing your toys even when you really didn't want to, for not making a fuss, for being obedient. These behaviors were rewarded with smiles, praise, and affection. This is social conditioning at its most powerful. We learn from a very young age that being agreeable equals approval, and approval equals love and safety. In many families, this is unintentional, just a byproduct of raising kids to be polite. But in some households, the pressure is far more intense. If a child grew up with emotionally unavailable or demanding parents, their own needs often came second. These kids learn that their job is to please their parents to keep things stable and safe. They're taught that their own feelings are less important than the emotional state of their caregiver. So they become tiny emotional caretakers, learning to anticipate needs, suppress their own desires, and say yes to keep the peace and avoid conflict or punishment. This isn't generosity, it's a survival mechanism. This pattern gets so deeply ingrained that it follows them right into adulthood, where every boss, friend, and partner becomes someone they feel they have to please to be accepted. Then you graduate from home and enter the next great factory of compliance, school. Here, the rules are even clearer. You get rewarded for sitting still, raising your hand, and following instructions without question. The good student is almost always the compliant student. This environment hammers home the idea that your value comes from conforming to what authority figures expect. Beyond home and school, society feeds us a constant stream of politeness scripts that teach us to soften our language and avoid saying no directly. We're taught that a flat no is rude or selfish, so instead we learn to say things like, "I'm not sure, maybe," or "let me see," which just leaves the door wide open for our boundaries to be pushed. We are socialized to believe that being accommodating is a virtue, and we're terrified of being seen as difficult if we actually assert our own needs. This creates what psychologists call the Fawn response. Most of us know about fight, flight, or freeze as trauma responses, but there's a fourth, to fawn. Fawning is basically people-pleasing as a defense mechanism. When you're faced with what feels like a threat, an angry parent, a demanding boss, or even just the possibility of social rejection, the fawn response is to try and appease that threat, to become as helpful and agreeable as you can to neutralize the danger. It's a subconscious strategy that says, if I make myself valuable to you, you won't hurt me. So, when you find yourself automatically saying yes to that extra project or that party you're dreading, it's not a simple decision. It's the result of decades of conditioning. It's the echo of every time you were praised for being a good girl or good boy. It's the ghost of every social script that told you being direct was rude. You weren't born a people pleaser. You were carefully manufactured to be one. And this programming makes you incredibly vulnerable to the techniques of persuasion used all around you, every single day. The hidden architects of yes. The principles of influence. If your childhood was the factory, then the world is the testing ground where that programming gets exploited constantly. Marketers, salespeople, co-workers, and even our friends, often without realizing it, use powerful psychological triggers to get us to say yes. The expert in this field, Dr. Robert Cialdini, identified the core principles of persuasion, and they are like the invisible strings that make people pleasers dance. Understanding these is like getting a decoder ring for human interaction. It lets you see the mechanism behind a request, giving you the power to override your automatic yes. Let's break down these architects of influence. 1. Reciprocity. This is the principle of owing someone. We are hardwired to want to repay debts. When someone gives you something, a gift, a favor, a compliment, you feel a subconscious pull to give something back. This is why charities send you free address labels and why a coworker might start a request with, "You were such a huge help last time." They're activating your reciprocity reflex. Before you even hear the request, you already feel like you owe them. 2. Commitment and consistency. We have a deep need to be consistent with things we've already said or done. Once we make a small commitment, we're way more likely to agree to bigger requests that align with it. It's the classic foot-in-the-door technique. Imagine your boss asks, "Can you just look over this one-page summary?" You say yes, because it's a small thing. An hour later, they follow up with, "Since you're already familiar with it, could you just draft the full report?" You feel trapped. Saying no now would make you feel inconsistent. Social proof. When we're not sure what to do, we look to others to guide our behavior. That's social proof. If everyone on your team is staying late, you feel this immense pressure to do the same, even if your work is done. You think if they're all doing it, it must be the right thing to do. It's why a boss might say everyone else has already agreed to come in on Saturday. This instantly makes you feel like you'll be the difficult one if you refuse. Authority. We are conditioned from birth to listen to authority figures, parents, teachers, bosses. When someone in a position of power asks for something, it doesn't feel like a request. It feels like a command. This is why physical therapists find patients are more likely to do their exercises if their diplomas are hanging on the wall. It's a visual reminder of their authority. Your compliance programming is especially sensitive to this trigger. Liking. This one's simple but incredibly powerful. We are far more likely to say yes to people we like. It's why salespeople try to find common ground with you, or why it's so hard to say no to our friends. The request gets tangled up in your affection for the person. Saying no feels like you're rejecting them, not just their request, and that triggers all your deepest fears of disconnection. 6. Scarcity. This principle states that we want more of the things we can have less of. Opportunities feel more valuable when they're limited. Think of limited time offers, or only 2 seats left. This triggers a fear of missing out. FOMO. A friend might say, "This is the only night we can all get together." The scarcity of the opportunity adds a ton of pressure, making you feel that if you say no, you'll miss out on something irreplaceable. When you look at these principles, you realize the world is a minefield of psychological triggers designed to get a yes. For someone who's been trained their whole life to be compliant, these triggers are practically irresistible. Your automatic yes isn't weakness. It's the predictable outcome of your conditioning meeting these powerful forces. but recognizing the game is the first step to refusing to play. The next is understanding what this game is really costing you. The true cost of yes, burnout, resentment, and a lost self. While people-pleasing might feel like the easy way out in the moment, it comes with a devastatingly high price. That constant stream of yeses creates a slow, toxic drip that erodes your well-being, your relationships, and your very sense of who you are. Chronic agreeableness is a fast track to a life filled with burnout, resentment, and a hollow feeling of being lost. Let's start with burnout. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're spending energy you don't actually have. You take on the extra project, go to the party when you're exhausted, and listen to a friend's problems when your own emotional tank is on empty. You are constantly overextending yourself, thinking you should be able to handle it all. This leads directly to chronic stress, mental fatigue, and emotional exhaustion. Your body and mind can only run on empty for so long before they start to shut down. This isn't just feeling tired, it's a complete depletion of your ability to enjoy things, to be creative, or to even care. You can't pour from an empty cup. Next up is the quiet poison of resentment. When you constantly put everyone else's needs before your own, a silent anger starts to simmer just beneath the surface. You might not even admit it to yourself at first, but it's there. You start feeling unappreciated for all the sacrifices you're making. You get frustrated with the very people you're trying so hard to please because deep down, you feel like they're taking advantage of you. This suppressed anger can leak out as passive aggression, sarcastic comments, showing up late, a subtle withdrawal which slowly destroys your relationships from the inside. The ultimate irony is that the people-pleasing you do to keep your relationships ends up poisoning them with a bitterness that you created. But maybe the most tragic cost is the loss of identity. When you spend your life reacting to what everyone else wants, you lose touch with what you want. Your sense of self becomes a mirror, reflecting what others expect you to be. You forget what you actually enjoy, what you believe in, what you value. When someone asks, "So what do you want to do?" you might genuinely have no idea, because you've spent years prioritizing everyone else's preferences. This leads to a profound sense of emptiness. You look in the mirror and see a collection of roles: the helpful employee, the supportive friend, the good child, but you can't find the actual person underneath it all. Finally, all of this makes you incredibly vulnerable to manipulation. People with exploitative tendencies can spot a people-pleaser from a mile away because they know they're easy targets. They know a little flattery, or a well-placed guilt trip is all it takes to get you to agree to whatever they want. You become trapped in one-sided relationships where your kindness is treated like a limitless resource to be drained. The cost of yes is so much greater than the momentary discomfort of no. It costs you your energy, your health, your real relationships, and your identity. It's a price you've been paying your whole life without even realizing it. But the good news is, you can stop. You can start taking your life back, one no at a time. If this is hitting home for you, and you're feeling that sense of recognition, it's because this is a journey so many of us are on. To help you get started, I've created a free one-page guide called the No Starter Kit. It's got 5 simple, powerful scripts you can use in everyday situations to start practicing your boundaries today. The link is right down in the description. It's a small first step, but it's a powerful one. Now let's get into how we can start to rewire this programming for good. The liberation of no, rewiring your default setting. Alright, we've looked at the factory that built your yes habit and the heavy price it's cost you. Now for the most important part, the liberation. This is where we stop being a victim of our conditioning and start being the architect of our own lives. Rewiring your default yes to a thoughtful no isn't about becoming selfish or mean. It's about becoming honest. It's about treating yourself with the same respect you give everyone else. It's about realizing that every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to your own well-being, your own priorities, and your own peace of mind. This is a process, and it takes practice. You're unlearning decades of conditioning, so be patient with yourself. Here are the foundational steps to start making that change. Step 1. Know your values and priority. This is the bedrock of all healthy boundaries. If you don't know what's truly important to you, you can't know what to protect. You'll be swayed by every single request because you have no internal compass. So take some time and really think about it. What matters most to you? Is it family time? Your creative work? Your mental health? Financial security? Write down your top 5 values. These are your non-negotiables. When a new request comes in, You hold it up against this list. Does saying yes to this support your core values, or does it take away from them? If a coworker asks you to stay late, but family dinner is a core value, the decision suddenly becomes much clearer. It's no longer about letting a colleague down. It's about honoring a promise you made to yourself. Step 2. Master the power of the pause. That automatic yes is a reflex. It happens so fast you don't even have time to think. Your most powerful tool to break that reflex is time. You have to create a buffer between the request and your response. You do not have to give an answer on the spot. In fact, you shouldn't. Arm yourself with a few buffer phrases. Memorize them, practice them, make them your new go-to. Let me check my calendar and get back to you. I need to think about that for a bit before I commit. Interesting. Let me review my current workload, and I'll let you know. This pause is a game changer. It stops the compliance reflex dead in its tracks and gives you the space to actually check in with your values and decide if this is something you genuinely want to do. It puts you back in control. Step 3. Learn to speak the language of no. Once you've paused and decided the answer is no, the next hurdle is actually saying the word. We often feel like we have to over-explain or apologize so much that our no ends up sounding like a maybe. This just invites more pressure. The most effective no is clear, concise, and respectful, but firm. A powerful way to do this is to use I statements. Instead of, "You're asking for too much," try, "I don't have the capacity to take that on right now." See the difference? One is an accusation, the other is a statement of fact about your own limits. A great formula is to be polite, state the no clearly, and then stop talking. For example, "Thank you so much for thinking of me for this. Unfortunately, I'm at full capacity right now and won't be able to give it the attention it deserves." That's it. It's respectful, honest, and leaves no room for argument. Step 4. Ditch the guilt. This is the hardest part. The moment you say no, a wave of guilt is going to wash over you. You'll feel selfish. You'll worry you've hurt their feelings or damaged the relationship. This is just the old programming, fighting back. You have to actively remind yourself, no is a complete sentence. You do not owe anyone a 20-minute explanation for protecting your own time and energy. The more you try to justify your no, the more you signal to the other person that your boundary is weak and up for debate. You're basically handing them ammunition to poke holes in your reasons. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that setting a boundary is a healthy, necessary act of self-care. It's not selfish to protect your well-being. It's responsible. Every time you feel that guilt, reframe it. You're not being difficult. You're being clear. You're not being selfish. You're being self-respecting. This is a skill, and like any skill, it gets easier with practice. Start small in low-stakes situations and build your confidence. Every no is another rep that strengthens your boundary-setting muscle. Your no toolkit. Practical scripts for a resilient you. Knowing the theory is one thing, but having the right words in the moment is everything. Let's equip you with some clear, practical scripts you can adapt for those common high-pressure situations. Think of this as your no toolkit. Scenario 1. The last-minute work request. The request. "Hey, can you help me finish this report? It's due tomorrow, and I'm totally swamped." Your new no. "I appreciate you asking, but I have to protect my time this evening to focus on my own deadlines. I can't take on anything extra right now." This works because it's firm, professional, and communicates your limits without being aggressive. Scenario 2. The social invitation you're dreading. The request. "You have to come to my party on Saturday. Everyone's going to be there." Your new no. "Thanks so much for the invitation. It sounds like it will be a blast. I'm going to have to sit this one out though. I really need a quiet weekend to recharge." This is warm and appreciative, validating their event while still honoring your need for rest. Scenario 3. The pushy salesperson or request for money. The request. "This offer is only good for today. If you sign up now, you'll save 50%. Your new no. "Thanks for the information, but I have a personal policy of not making financial decisions on the spot. I'll have to pass." This approach is brilliant, because it's not about them or their offer. It's about your process. It's almost impossible to argue with. Scenario 4. The request for emotional labor. The request. From a friend who constantly unloads on you. "I need to talk. I've had the worst day and I just need to vent." Your new no. "I really want to be there for you, but I honestly don't have the emotional bandwidth to hold space for that right now." Can we connect tomorrow when I can give you my full attention? This is both empathetic and honest. It validates their need while protecting your own mental energy and even preserves the relationship by offering a real alternative. Keep these scripts in your back pocket. The key is to be polite but firm, and to stop apologizing for having boundaries. Your time and energy are just as valid as anyone else's. We started this journey by facing a painful truth. You've been taught to say yes your entire life. You were conditioned to believe that your value comes from being agreeable. We've seen how that programming makes you a target for manipulation, and how it costs you your energy, your peace of mind, and even your sense of self. But your past does not have to define your future. You now have the tools to see the psychological traps, the strategies to pause, and the words to communicate your boundaries with confidence. This isn't about becoming a person who just says no to everything. It's about reclaiming the power of your yes. When you stop giving your yes away out of fear and obligation, it becomes a precious gift again. Your yes becomes intentional and authentic. You'll have more energy for the people and projects that truly light you up. Your relationships will become healthier, built on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. The path forward begins with one small, courageous no. It's going to feel uncomfortable at first. That guilt will probably show up. That's just the old programming dying off. Let it. With every no you speak, you are casting a vote for yourself. You are telling the world, and more importantly, telling yourself, that you matter. So I want to leave you with a question. What is one small no you can practice this week? It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's saying no to scrolling social media, so you can read a book instead. Maybe it's saying no to a small extra task at work. Share your intention in the comments below. Let's build a community of support around this. If this video helped you, please give it a like, subscribe for more content on building a life on your own terms, and share it with anyone you think needs to hear this. Thank you for being here, and here's to your next powerful, unapologetic no. Congratulations, you've just taken another step toward mastering psychological self-defense. Here on Psych-Jitsu, we dive deep into neuroscience-based tactics, psychological strategies, and martial arts mindset training to help you protect your mind and navigate any situation with confidence. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Psych-Jitsu isn't just theory, it's your first line of defense.